away to the muster point, which is located by the staff car park and is identified by a green sign positioned in the shrub bed. Please make yourself known to a member of staff on duty. This meeting is recorded. The meeting may also be recorded and broadcast by the press and members of the public. Please see Section 8 of the Guidance for Public Participation, including recording and use of social media at meetings. Thank you very much. I'll just take a moment to gather our thoughts before we begin with the first item. Okay, thank you very much. We start with apologies. Do we have any apologies, please?
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Excellent. So we'll move on to item 2. Do we have any declarations of interest? Do we have any written declarations? Thank you. Any councillors have declarations? Thank you, Councillor Wade.
Yeah, Chair, I as you know, am a county councillor, and I'm also the author of the proposal of the motion that is on item 14. The clerk has rightly advised me, because I'm a county councillor receiving an allowance, I should declare an interest. Not that I get an allowance for 20 mile an hour limits, by any stretch of the imagination or anything to do with highways, but because I have an allowance as a county councillor, I should declare an interest in that, where I propose a motion and won't vote on it, because I think that ticks the box that is advised by the clerk.
Fantastic, thank you. Councillor Wade.
Item 11, the Amenities Committee, there's a recommendation in there with regard to a suited size oak tree planted by the Matings in memory of a long-serving ex-parish councillor, and that ex-parish councillor was a relative of mine, and as on behalf of council,
I need to declare interest in that.
So that's a pecuniary interest. We won't comment, we won't vote on that, obviously.
Thank you very much.
As well, Chair.
Yes, I've noted that.
So that's a
Duly noted. Right, I think we've completed item 2, so we move on to item 3, and we have our report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Afternoon or evening, everyone. Okay, so our district priorities across the New Forest, including this area, remains our drug-related harm and also county lines, which involve exploitation of children and drug dealing in this area. We have had a couple of very good arrests. With drug investigations, they do not happen overnight. It does take a while. Most people will not admit to drug supply because they could get a lengthy prison term. So we are very reliant on phone data, analysing the drugs, intelligence, building up a bigger picture. So some of these investigations can take some months to complete. So quite often the person is let out on bail and have bail conditions. The one that we were involved in recently through the county lines, his bail conditions was to keep out of the New Forest, which is quite a good bail condition to have, and he is adhering to that at this time. So that remains a priority, drug-related harm, drug supply, as does acquisitive crime. Acquisitive crime is the theft from motor vehicles, burglaries, in particular non-dwelling, and dwelling burglaries and any robberies. As is seasonal, we do see an increase in acquisitive crime over the winter months. especially non-dwelling burglaries and theft from motor vehicles in rural car parks. I don't know how many times, how much crime prevention we have to put out to say to people, please don't leave anything in your cars, but it still doesn't seem to work. And the ones that we do get reported to us are handbags, bags, suitcases left in vehicles, which is a shame. But, you know, we try our best there. In the last month, 6 weeks, our crime has reduced, which is really good news. We had a dwelling burglar arrested, albeit it was over in Bpnf, but once they start in certain areas of the New Forest, they will come across. A male had been released only 10 days out of prison, was in Waterlooville, came across to our area and entered a dwelling of an 80-year-old victim, took about £20,000 worth of jewellery. We did some inquiries with second-hand shops and located some of the jewellery down in a second-hand shop in Cosham. So it was really good work by the local team there, and thankfully he's back inside waiting to go to court in March, April time. So that was some really good work, but it just shows that people will come across the county or even further to come and commit crime. I don't know if they think the New Forest, you know, quiet and nothing happens and there's no police, but we quite often have villains come from other areas to commit their crime, but that was a really good result there, so that was good to get him back inside because he was a prolific burglar. I don't know if anyone of you heard on the news about a male by the name of Robert Archer. He was our most prolific criminal in this area. He unfortunately died in a car crash. It's believed he was committing crime near Andover. Police picked up a vehicle, chased it, and the vehicle came off the road and he subsequently died in the vehicle. I mean, no one wants a death at all, but just to let you know, he was from this area if you haven't heard about it on the news, and he was involved in a lot of crime. So actually the impact on the community and the businesses was minimal for that. Our antisocial behaviour and areas where we believe youths are drug taking are still being controlled by our PCSOs and our AXOs. So this again is probably the same places we talked about previously: Netley View, Challenger Way, the new shelter, Duck Pond at Beechwood Way and Oaklands. So that's on the patrol plans of our PCSOs and our AXOs. It is difficult when it's used. We refer them on to the youth offending team. We don't necessarily want to criminalise children. Also, we don't want children smoking dope in areas either. So it's just striking that balance. But overall, the PCSO said it's not too bad at the moment. Partnership work, we continue doing our partnership work, especially with the speeding in the New Forest, and also to do with animal deaths. We are concentrating on Roger Penny Way, which we've done so previously, but we're spreading this out across the whole of the forest. And so it's not just about giving people tickets, but it's just educating people, because quite often it's not the speeders that kill the animals. In our experience, it can be people who are just driving not appropriately to the road conditions. So some of the excuses we hear when we stop people is quite incredible. Some people know exactly where all the animals in the forest are, so they can speed. So we're doing a lot of work with Forestry England, the Birders, NFDC, and that will continue. For those who've seen the newsletter, hopefully you've seen we are putting together a barn meet, which is the first one we would have done across the New Forest. So this is on 4th of April. Hopefully we're going to do 2 a year, and basically a barn meet is just getting the community together, our partners, local councillors, and just to come to have a meet. It'll probably be 2 hours, if that. We'll have speakers there from Country Watch, Firearms, our counter-terrorist team will come along, and it's just to basically listen to the speakers and to network. because we know rural crime is an issue and we want to keep it at the forefront of people's minds. So this time it's at Sunnyfield in Totton, and if it's successful we'll do another one in about 6 months' time and have it on the west of the forest. It was, believe it or not, that it was quite difficult to get a barn to use. I thought it'd be quite easy in the New Forest to get a barn, but it wasn't. But that's the best we can do. But hopefully it will be a really good event, and then we can make this a regular thing twice every year. So you know, please come if you can. You have to register online just so we get an idea of numbers. So and please spread the message as well. If you know people who have businesses or live in what I call the rural part of the forest, they're the people we really want to come. We don't really want to concentrate on the sort of urban towns in the New Forest. This is more about what I call the proper rural area where they can be hit quite significantly with crime. So that's the update from me. So overall, crime in this area is still at a low. Assisted crime is reducing. We're concentrating on drug-related harm and exploitation of children and continuing our partnership work. So any questions for me?
Councillor Cullen first, please.
Two questions. One, how do we actually register for it? Where will we find registration details? The barn event?
I can send them out tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's free, and you get tea and coffee and a bun, if you're good.
You sold it.
Yeah, so if nothing else, come for that.
Councillor Clark.
Two questions, Chief Inspector. Is one is there was a crime that occurred in my patch, and it finally made court, and the judge imposed a victim compensation claim. The question for the resident does that go directly to the victim, as it were, to the resident? Are you aware of that, or is it a nominal sum?
So
A victim compensation order.
So that will go to the victim.
So it would directly,
Yeah.
it was a small sum, but it
Yes,
wasn't
it goes
clear whether that
Yeah,
actually
the whole
went
lot
to
should go to the victim.
Okay, and secondly, second question, Mr. Chairman. Have we used in any other towns in the New Forest, and have they been successful in using bylaws to ban prolific shoplifters from shops?
We
Does it
have
work?
used them in certain areas. People where areas have got shop watch. I'm not saying they're that successful with the bylaws. So we do banning orders, but again, they're not that successful.
Councillor Alex Wade.
Thank you, Inspector. You say that theft of vehicles, dwelling burglaries and sort of are down in the last few months, but even just in Hollybank and even the Hythe football club has been targeted in recent weeks. There's been repeated vans broken into, and even a dwelling burglary I'm aware of in Hillview Road. Has there been any adaptation to patrols and sort of more patrols sort of late at night and early hours, because these incidents appear to be happening quite you know, sort of 10 o'clock. I think the football club started about 10:30, and I know that overnight the Hollybank shops and vehicles parked there were targeted, and the dwelling burglary at a similar time. How are we responding to these so there aren't repeated occasions? Because some residents of Hollybank are concerned that this is becoming a trend that's not being responded to.
Right, so like I've said sort of many times, when people are asleep generally is when we're out patrolling. So the residents won't see them, but they are out there responding, because that's, like you say, the time that the burglaries happen. So I've got extra people out responding to that. But you know, again, a lot of it we're depending on intelligence, because you could have 100 cops patrolling the town of Hythe and still miss people. So it's not just about extra people out there. It's about the intelligence. We've had an uplift of the AMPR cameras. So it's looking at the bigger picture, because it's very, very unique if we actually catch someone in the act. Because we could be in one road and it could happen the next road along, and theft from motor vehicle or going into a garage to take out a bike. These happen in minutes or less than minutes. So it's not just looking at extra patrols, because like I said, you can have 100 extra patrols, but it doesn't necessarily mean that will work. We have a lot of tactics that I can't obviously talk about that are much better than having extra cops out.
Councillor Lowell,
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Inspector Andrews for a very good report as well. I attended a county council meeting on the Children and Families Advisory Panel. One of the items was child exploitation, and the subject of county lines came up. And Hampshire has the second highest incidence of county lines in the country. Well, it all generates from London. If you look at the south east, Hampshire is second highest in the list. So I'd like to pay tribute to the work you and your officers did on that. But I ask you a question on top of that success. How much more do you think we need to do to really make an impact in the New Forest? Because I know New Forest may be not as bad as some areas, but we do know it affects the entire county.
So, I mean, from us, we concentrate on certain areas, certain children that we believe who are involved, and link in with social services and schools. On the 7th of March, I believe, we've got County Lines Intensification Week. So we will be purely the local team focusing on county lines, drug supply and children. We also have a missing exploitation and traffic team who work very closely with us. But any eyes and ears from you guys, anything that you think isn't right, you do need to feed into the police, because there's lots of children out there who potentially could be victims. And I think what we've learned is since COVID there are more and more victims of exploitation, because I've got children myself, and my youngest is 15. She's on social media all the time, and this is how they can recruit people. So it is a worrying time for children, and they are easily exploited. So this is why we make it a priority.
Thank you for what you did.
are there any more questions? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
Kind of going on from what Mark said about the shoplifters. So is there no banning that we can do within, because obviously we do have somebody that has been unfortunately given another suspended sentence. Is there nothing we can do with trying to ban him from the village?
No, unfortunately not. We do as much as we can. Unfortunately, this type of offence for the courts, they see it low level, but we know how impacted it is on the business community.
Okay.
So we can't ban him from the village. When we can get into court, sometimes we can get bail conditions to keep out of certain shops.
Okay.
So, and there's different bail conditions. One can come from the court where we can arrest and take back to the court.
Yeah.
Others are like police bail conditions, which are not as effective.
Right, okay.
So it's quite tricky.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Yes, Helen, can you give us the right advice for people that are actually finding someone breaking into their garage or on their property? What is the right thing for people to do? They just don't seem to really be sure.
999.
Just 999.
Yeah, I would call 999, even if you just suspect someone's in the back garden. I would be calling 999 because you've got to threat someone breaking into your property. And I would not be going out there to. I know sometimes it's in people to go out and front them up, but I personally would not recommend that, because you just do not know what a person has on them. So I would just call 999, speak to the call taker and say, I believe someone's breaking into my property.
Can I ask a question?
Can we allow that?
Depends whether you wish to suspend standing orders on the committee.
Well, take a vote on that then. Can I have a vote on those people in favour of suspending standing orders? That's a majority decision. Thank you very much. Yes,
Thank you. It
please.
is going to be traditional to do that. Could I ask you about e-scooters? What's the position legally about e-scooters in our area?
It's very complicated, e-scooters. I don't know if this area is a pilot area.
Not aware of it.
No.
So the reason I asked the question is there's more and more people use it on the main road, on the roads.
Yeah, so they should,
Here.
it should only be used on private property. So there's some areas like in Southampton, Shirley, and other areas nearby that are piloting schemes, so they can be used legally. But I don't believe there's anywhere in the forest. However, saying that, my understanding is, and I'm not an expert, but I think even the traffic officers find it very complicated, that they should not be used on the road or pavement. They should only be used on private property, like their property, the owner's property.
Because the numbers been increasing even on this road here. I just wondered if you pull people in, find people, warn people.
I don't know if the local team have, but that's a standing if it is illegal.
Okay, thank you.
Right, shall we reinstate standing orders now, please? Thank you, it's a majority decision, thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
We move on to 3B, which is the ACSO report. This is for noting. Can I just check that everyone has noted that? Yep, happy with that, thank you. Moving on to item 4, which are the minutes, to approve the minutes of the last full council meeting held on the 26th of January 2022. So, if I say page 100, is that what everyone else has got?
Yeah.
First page of minutes, yeah. Page 101. Everyone happy?
Yeah.
Page 102. Page 103.
Chairman,
Councillor Wade.
I just wondered if the county council has an opportunity to update with regards to point 304-21. He said he was pursuing an update from Hampshire County Council will report back with regards to brief overview.
I think that's an item for questions later on in the agenda.
Okay, Chair.
Councillor, thank you. Page 103. What did you say? Page 104. Can I have a proposal for the minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Fairhead. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Wade. And are we happy to have these as an accurate record of the meeting? Thank you. I think that was a majority, so. Thank you very much. And moving on to item 5, which is Chairman's announcements. So, I'm pleased to be able to confirm that on the 9th of December 2021, Southern Water upgraded the flood pumps in the village. This should help to avoid a repeat of the recent flood in the Hythe centre. We are, as a local council, we are not routinely informed of activities of utility companies and indeed very many other things. So I do thank the officers for their detective work on that one, getting some information on that. On the 10th of February, I attended the first meeting of the new Horticultural Show Committee. The future of the show is looking more promising. Next meeting is the 10th of March. Please contact Sue, our clerk, if you would like to attend. The parish council was contacted after yet another resident had a nasty fall in Hythe Centre. I'm grateful to officers and County Councillor Wade for progressing the matter with Hampshire County Council, which is the responsible authority for the pedestrian area. I'd also like to pay tribute to the officers and maintenance team for their work from Thursday through Friday in preparation for the storm and dealing with the issues. Work continued into the early part of this week. That concludes my chairman announcements. We now have reports by county and district members. Do we have a report from Councillor McAdam? Okay, moving on to Councillor Wade, please.
Thank you, Chair. My reports for district and county, to paraphrase Charles Dickens, is a tale of two budgets. But the first thing I mentioned, I attended the Children and Families Advisory Panel, and we talked about child exploitation. And this is an issue that is increasing, even since the pandemic. And county lines, countries, as I said, to Chief Inspector Andrews, is the second highest in the country. It's very important if anybody sees anything, they report it to the MASH for child exploitation. I'm not necessarily talking about drug dealing now, any type of exploitation. The MASH is the multi-agency support hub, and that has police, Hampshire Social Services, all of the agencies, NHS, and can deal with any issues, so to say. However, the main thing this month was Council's annual budget meeting, and once again the dire situation of Hampshire's finances were clear to see. It will survive this year, but as the report says, what is clear is that actually we cannot simply continue to follow our usual process to address the gap. Currently it does on the top of 640 million savings due to reductions in the government funding they will have already saved by 2023-2024. Even a leader of the council says its finances are not sustainable in the future. There's a rising demand in social care, rising costs and increasing inflation. The council has no control over rising costs and increasing inflation. The council has repeatedly said to government about a long-term sustainable funding solutions for growth in social care costs. The county council is not financially sustainable in the longer term, and this has never been true for our current outlook. We will, quote, look to the government to address this serious position of us over the coming years. Unfortunately, the government doesn't appear to be listening, and the vital services of people of Hampshire are going to be at risk. The levelling up of the northern shires and towns is at the expense of the south, so for us it will be a levelling down. However, the county's attempts to influence the county MPs and its Secretary of State on the funding issues have not made any impact at all. The input they need to. We are bordering on a future which could result in the issue of a 114 notice. So theory is, and a 114 notice, for those who don't know, is where a council has its funding completely restricted on what it can spend it on. Can't recruit anybody, can't spend on anything that's not statutory, right? It's in the deep part of the sticky stuff, if you pardon the expression. There needs to be a reversal of the lack of government funding for local government or political change at the highest level with the local government support policies of voice. And I'll tell you, I stood up and I told them exactly what the problem was. It's their MPs, their government, that are starving the county council of funding, and it's their responsibility to get that changed because they're the ones doing it. Did they listen?
Thank you, Councillor Wade. And we'll continue with the District Council reports, and we'll start, I think we're starting in reverse order again, so do you mind carrying on?
Okay.
Councillor Wade.
I did say it's two budgets. Now, NFTC, it's been a busy month at NFTC. I attended 2 cabinet meetings, Sustainable Waste Task and Finish Group, cabinet briefing, one-to-one with Chief Executive. The budget council meeting and a meeting on NFTC Hythe Information Office. I will come to those shortly. I also attended the planning committee this month. 1 local item thought was lodged in from Berlin was granted permission. Now, NFTC's finances are in a very good place. The government has given them extra funding they didn't expect, so they are not strapped for cash. So the Liberal Democrat group proposed a range of revenue items to help people on the following issues. We did, for the first time in many, many years, an alternative budget to the Tories. Right. And these are the issues we took on. Child poverty. And you may not know this, there are 16.2% of New Forest school children on free school meals compared to 15.5% across the county and 16% across the South East region. And that is a staggering fact for such a wealthy county. These figures equate to 3,347 children being in poverty, worse than the average for the South East region. We will put funding into working with other agencies to address this issue. We also looked at opportunities, we will put funding into increased training opportunities and apprenticeships. On a different topic, there were 12,788 crimes in the New Forest during 2020. We proposed a crime prevention officer, funding in the community safety team, community safety is NFDC responsibility, and funding for crime prevention initiatives to help make our communities more secure. We have an ageing population with more than 53,000 over the age of 65 in the New Forest. There are no direct public transport means to Livingston Hospital and Southampton General Hospital. We will put funding and effort into working with Hampshire County Council, parish and town councils and bus companies to put hospital service in place. All of these items were fully costed to help local people that were rejected by the Conservatives. They had the money. What they did was scribble away at 1.25 million into the capital fund to pay for topping up the pension fund. Now the pension fund in recent years has done rather well. It's not needed topping up. But this money can be used for anything that they want to. Bear that in mind. They also moved 300,000 from the general fund into the capital fund to pay for Livingston toilets. But they won't spend 400,000 on these critical issues to help the New Forest people in need. The meeting on FDC, so that shows you the calibre of authority we're dealing with there. The meeting on FDC Hythe information officers is, I believe, the start of the process by which Conservatives can shut the office and expect all residents to go online for help. All our local River Democrat council campaign kits open. That is appalling that they're going to do that. The quote was, they've got a task and finish group. We haven't decided. Well, hang on a minute. You wouldn't have the task and finish group to come to that conclusion if you weren't going to do it. I've been in this game too long. I know how it works. And I've made my opinion abundantly clear as not just as a Hythe councillor, but as a leader of the opposition, exactly what I think of that idea. And I stress that this parish council, the parish council members, district councilmen, we all campaign to keep the office open. Hythe has been really badly done by this administration. We have got the least amount of open time at any information office in Forest. It is not acceptable. I have complained about this again and again, which we had to this meeting, and I think the chairman was there. I made my opinion quite clear to the NFDC officers, and we must campaign and do all we can to make sure this is reversed. Because a lot of our elderly people are not computer savvy. They don't have to go online and go through an automated system, because I think that's what they want to do on the phone. No, we want people here to look after our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Councillor Wade.
Yep, sorry, can you hear me at the back? Fine, thank you very much. Sorry. At full council on Monday, I seconded a motion by Councillor Jack Davies to remove the recommendation to full council to raise the council housing rents by 4.1% as part of the 22-23 housing revenue account budget. With rising energy prices, inflation, and wider worries for our tenants, especially with many or close to the poverty line, I did not feel this was the right time, and the authority was in a position where this additional rise was not necessary to add to its funds to its maintenance programme budget. Many of my colleagues within our Dibden group did speak in favour of the motion, but sadly the ruling Conservative group voted against. Some of the reasons being I felt personally quite widely out of touch with what our residents were experiencing. Elsewhere, next year's budget, as Councillor Malcolm Wade has mentioned, was agreed with a 2.7% rise, £5 per average Band D property, who will pay an average £188.36p for the New Forest District Council part of the council tax. I spoke and voted for the alternative budget proposals put forward by the Deb Group, and I was exceptionally proud to do so. as it involved a costed, well thought out selection of proposals for New Forest District Council to tackle problems we all hear from residents. My colleagues spoke well and passionately, trying to emphasise why these proposals would help our authority challenge some of the core issues that affect our communities, such as poor public transport, crime, fear of crime and child poverty. The ruling Conservatives all voted against our proposals, unfortunately, but it is a sign that we as a group don't want to just shout and criticise everything, but look at new approaches where we can offer an alternative approach, of approaching issues. And you can see the whole meeting on YouTube, and somewhat professionally, there was actual debates. It was a good 2-hour meeting. If you've ever been to a district council meeting, historically they can be quite short, but budget allows for a proper debate from all sides. Councillor Lovell and I had the pleasure of speaking to Orchard Infant School Reception Year 2 classes as part of the community. We are not the first councillors to do this, and we know Councillor Delavan has spoken to Nosewood, and other councillors around this table have also got good relationships with local schools. It was a real pleasure to meet them and hear their pride and enthusiasm about where they live. I have to declare an interest, my son was in the audience. Their questions were varied and fantastic, and Councillor Lovell bringing a new playground poster for Jones Lane went down very well. The key issues that matter to this very important age group who don't get as much of a say as us, the adults and their families who can vote, was littering, parks, the environment and the ferry. And I do hope, alongside Councillor Lovell and any other councillors, to continue working with local schools with engagement and tackling local issues such as littering. P.S. I would add that Councillor Lovell and I may have given the false impression of the average age of parish councillors. Lastly, it was another busy month for casework, footpaths, antisocial behaviour, housing, tree issues, including those damaged from the storm. I will pay credit to council staff from the parish and NFTC for their very quick action over the storm in dealing with many serious issues. And on one final point on planning, as far as I'm aware, St Jude's most recent application was objected. There's been an appeal for 30 Ashley Close, objected to, and there's an ongoing appeal for property in Fairview Drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's been a busy month actually. I think there was a couple of people that invited me to visit them that wanted to raise awareness about the facilities they've got. I've actually given some of my community grant to the Wessex Cancer Unit, which is only next door here, and they wanted to just remind people that they are there and to come back. You know, the COVID restrictions are over, so that was one thing. The second one, I was invited up to again school liaison, which was at Nosewood. It's got a particular focus on the new social, emotional and mental health resource provision. It's called Redwood. So Redwood is a provision for pupils with an EHCP who have a social, emotional and mental health as their primary need and present with high anxiety and work around anxiety and work around age expected. Pupils attend all of their lessons in the mainstream classroom, supported by Redwood staff, with the flexibility of returning to Redwood when they need to. In Redwood, the staff are a team of 5, and the facilities include a social area, quiet room, kitchenette, a learning room for quieter study, and an outside space which includes a small vegetable plot with some gym outside equipment. Pupils all follow a personalised timetable which includes any interventions identified in their EHCP, and they're a new provision. They currently have 3 Year 7 pupils and will be taking another 3 in September. They are working with pupils identified in the mainstream school who benefit from a quieter environment at break and lunch times, and this is becoming more and more common apparently. So they particularly want me to just highlight they are there. And I've already heard from somebody whose child is, experiencing these sort of symptoms. So it's quite good that they invited me up to see if they're there. I've done the normal meet the councillor as the district and parish councillor at St Andrews on the first Friday every month, which is successful in that people are coming regularly to see us. What else? I attended the Horticultural show where the committee was well attended, and we had some enthusiastic new members come along, all hoping to rejuvenate that. So that'll be on the 30th of July. The work at Heatherstone Avenue and Armwood Avenue, I know a lot of people are looking out for. It is being planned and funding being looked at. And they're also looking at interested sponsors and supporters. They want to obviously have trees, bulbs, seeds, etc. So I will be writing to schools to be involved in that, and also local businesses. Attended the district council meeting last night, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Osborne. And we move on, please, to Councillor Dillman.
Yeah, I haven't got an awful lot to report. I too attended the Hythe Information Office meeting, and also the District Council budget. Well, it's a council meeting with the budget, but my colleagues are much more fluent than I am about that, so I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. Right, I think it's me next. So on the 31st of January, I attended the Hampshire County Council Passenger Transport Forum. In the breakout areas, the New Forest group was able to make a consistent argument about poor cross-forest service. I again highlighted the issue with the 112 and joined other councillors across the forest in making a case for using the tour bus service as a model for better year-round service for isolated communities, greatly assisted by the feedback we had on our own survey of residents over the last couple of months. On the 9th of February, I attended the Customer Service Task and Finish group, which we heard earlier. On the 15th, we had the Hythe Information Office meeting. On the 16th, along with Councillor Wade, I attended the Sustainable Waste Task and Finish group. This was mainly to do with documentation, because councils all over the country are still waiting for the government to publish the long overdue requirements for authorities and produce the responsibilities. That concludes my district report. And now we move on to outside body reports.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman. Not much to report apart from the fact that the 6 social housing units are now being built in Lady Cross Road, and hopefully they'll be opened in August, which is good news for housing. I also attended the full council. Just want to draw your attention to one particular point in the supporting the budget speech that in the short research that I did for that research was suggesting that the amount of those over age 65 and over will dramatically increase in this area. In 1999, it was 22.1% of those over 65 in our area. By 2039, it will be 37.3%. And really pressurising the New Forest District Council to provide services for a lot of older people with more complex mobility needs, but at this moment in time they chose not to support any of the proposals that we suggested. And secondly, it was one question of the District Council which I asked was regarding workers' rights on the free ports. There's a lot of evidence that they shift just jobs from one area to another, rather than increase jobs, of which KPMG have reassured the council there will be at least 8,000 new jobs created for the free ports across the district. However, that was increased to 20,000 on a Monday night. Heaven knows where the other 11,000, 12,000 come from, but never mind. 20,000 jobs are going to be created, but it's protecting those workers' rights, because within free ports, of course, the EU city market doesn't apply, and any T's and C's within those areas would be dependent on the employer. So there is quite a lot of questions about the efficacy and the quality and what we've got coming in the free ports, and that will directly affect our residents. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Moving on to outside body reports. So if you'd like to raise your hand if you have something to add on this. Councillor Wade.
I won't mention the FALC because I believe you attended the FALC as our main representative, so are you happy to comment on that, Chairman?
You can go ahead.
No, I'll let you know that. So I went to Age Concern. I had my first meeting as the representative of Age Concern. I was very interested to hear about the hard work that's going on supporting residents all around the New Forest. Their shop in Dibden Parish is performing very well, and it's one of their top performers. They're currently supporting clients about transport, minibuses, foot care, lunch clubs, among others, and other events. And I offered to them that there are opportunities for them to help fundraise, which is again a challenge for many organisations. Obviously, we have in August a big volunteer event, and actually they weren't part of it in 2021, and that they should be one of the volunteer groups to take part this year in 2022, and a good opportunity would be school fakes. There's all sorts of events in and around the summer where they can have stalls all around the New Forest district. So it's a great opportunity to hear what they do and sort of how I can support as a councillor. If there is anyone who you think would make a benefit from the services that they offer, whether it's going down to an event at the Horticultural Centre or the clients about transport or the lunch clubs, then please do get in touch with them. There are a collection of amazing volunteers who just pick up residents and take them to appointments and other places around, and they do an amazing job. But yes, and it was very enjoyable being part of that group and see what I can assist them with.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other outside body reports? Councillor Villiers.
Yes, this morning I attended the meeting of the Dibden Allotments Fund, and sort of tying in with Monday night's district council meeting and the problems, in particular on the water side, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the water side is about the most deprived area in the forest. Just to let people make people aware that the allotment fund has got funds available for individuals and organisations to apply for. The applications are actually down. I'm not sure quite how long, so I've only recently joined this. But one of the problems is, and actually it's in line, the next strategy meeting is to change the name, because the allotments bit confuses people. They think it's just about allotments. It's not. It's for hardship, and things are only going to get worse. I mean, as outlined, the county cutbacks and everything. So for people to be aware that there is this fund available for both individuals and for organisations that are helping alleviate distress and hardship. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Villiers. Councillor Osborne.
Yeah, just remind everyone, I'm still in constant touch with WCAG, which is Waterside Cycling Action Group, with Malcolm Wade and my support. They're being listened to and involved in a lot of meetings and discussions that are going on about providing better, safer and connected cycle lanes. So they are being consulted now, which is good, because they are very knowledgeable and research groups. So just to reassure people that are, wondering if we're doing anything about cycling and non-motorised travel, really, so walking, cycling and things like that. We are trying really hard to get that sorted.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Yes, I think we're actually seeing the results of that, aren't we, with the County Council's consideration over the recent developments. There have been changes that have been as a result of that. Have we got any other councillors on outside bodies? Right, I'll continue then with the Voluntary Youth Forum. The meeting was postponed, but there has been some exploratory work with local schools on getting the Youth Council up and running now that COVID restrictions are finally making that more straightforward. I attended the second meeting of the Rock the Train group, along with Councillors Lovell and McLean, coordinating activities to take place before and during the day on the 23rd of July. And my thanks goes to the councillors mentioned for their input there, which is very valuable. I'll just mention briefly the Association of New Forest Councils, which is backing the 20 is Plenty campaign, but they are looking to gather evidence from all the town and parish councils in the Hampshire area to make sure that they form a pressure group, getting the county council to recognise the individual requirements of smaller communities like parish councils and town councils, to make sure there is a thought-through plan for this ongoing issue of speeding and control of traffic. That concludes this element of the meeting. Thank you very much. We now move to item 8, which is public forum. Do we have any written questions? Thank you very much. Do we have any?
Yes, please, Chairman. A couple of things really. One is item 14, the 20 mile per hour speed limits. I think that's to be supported. That's a good idea, that. But are you aware, or do you remember, there's the question, that I did bring to the attention of this council a sign that was missing, just in this road outside, when all the repainting was done. There was one missing in the middle and it still hasn't been repainted.
We'll take that up with the county councillor and hopefully we can get that
I didn't hear the question. What was it?
Could you repeat the question for Councillor
The
Wade?
20 mile per hour sign outside the Murrays wasn't redone, repainted, it's virtually disappeared, when they did all the
I know which one you mean, yeah.
upgrading of the thing. You could argue, well, there's a ramp not far from that, but believe you me, when the pub's closed at night, some people think they're Starsky and Hutch. And, you know...
Is that the one out of the hotel?
It's one at the moment, what is it? The hotel.
Just up there?
Yeah.
I did ask to get that done too.
Thank you.
I'll chase them up.
We appreciate your continued interest in the matter.
And the other one was at item 11. I ought to... No, yeah, item 11. Actually, I put this as a question in. I'm sure you're aware, are you not, that I think that's a very good idea to plant a tree in commemoration of ex-councillor Stan Wade. Stan was a good chap and a great servant to this community, and I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
Yes, I mean the decision was taken because of his the length of his involvement and how much he achieved in the town. So it seemed an appropriate thing to do. And I would add that was in consultation with a number of long-serving councillors who are not present tonight. So you know we did consult widely on that, and it was fully supported.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions from the public gallery? Thank you very much. So move on to question 10, which I won't forget tonight. So it's councillor appointments. Well, I nearly got there, didn't I? I'll get it right one night. So it's councillors to take brief questions from councillors. There we go. Councillor Wade.
My question is to the county councillor. Can we have an update on your discussions as per the minutes from the meeting last time with regards to flooding and South Street drainage, please? Have you managed to get anywhere since the last meeting?
It's just to clarify, is this in relation to South Street?
Yes, brief overview of South Street drainage works.
What happened is the county council were coming to do some work on the drains and discovered that the utilities to Church and Bones put them under the road where they were going to work on the drains. So as you all know, electricity and water doesn't mix. So they had to stop doing the work. I asked the county council when we were going to review this, and they said we're going to have to go away and think how to do it, because there are certain fundamental challenges because we've got an electric wire where they want to do the drains. I haven't had any more feedback on that, but I will chase it up again. Okay?
I would, however, add to that this does point out how complicated the issue is, and there is still quite a level of confusion about who needs to do flood alleviation works. And as a parish council, we have to work with the district council, who are the flood authority, and the gateway authority. We cannot approach the environment agency direct. Those who have been in previous meetings will know that we've had a series of conversations over a long period of time to get to this stage. There is work progressing. Some of it is controlled by the Environment Agency, some of it is controlled by the County Council, and we have no influence over that work. But we are also working closely with the District Council, and I commend the officers who've spent many hours in communication with District Council officers to move the matter forward. Councillor Wade.
Yeah, I'm aware, Chair, that on Monday night, as our colleague Councillor Wade, the younger, mentioned, he supported an amendment by our group not to raise council rents by 4.1%. The reason I'm raising this for your information and for this council to consider, Chair, is that they did that on the basis it was fair because two council representatives said it was. Very many, they do not know how many people are on food banks, they do not know how many people are living in fuel poverty, and they don't know how many people are in child poverty. So they're taking these decisions in isolation. And I fear for the future of our residents who are at the moment financially vulnerable, and those on the edge of need who will be pushed over when the electricity prices and the gas prices come up. So if this council, and you are happy with this, Chairman, I believe this council should help signpost residents in need to the services of DAP and any other one that comes up. I think it's really important that this council looks after our most vulnerable, and we do all we can to try and support that. So I request whether it needs to go as an agenda item to a Bpnf or this council itself, or this council can do that without that we make a big effort to try and signpost our most vulnerable residents in Hythe and Dibden to the support that they will need in the months coming.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. Do we have any other questions? Councillor Clark.
It's a question really to Councillor Delamere as well. It's slightly tenuous, but nevertheless, I had a local resident in touch with me recently. She's in her mid to late 70s. She's a council resident. The energy company with which she was with has gone bust, and she's been shifted onto the larger tariff. And she's already fairly tight with the money. And unfortunately, her son, aged late 40s on his own, died. She now cannot afford the funeral. And she was seeking my advice as to where she could go to seek some kind of grant that would assist her in paying to bury her son in the most basic funeral possible. And I just wonder whether DAF, the rules apply there, or whether they don't.
Yes.
They can help.
Yes.
I'll put that back to them.
Considering the application.
Right, okay. Well, there we are, thank you. It's
Yes.
it's an indication of what we might get down the road. Thank you.
And I would also say that it is worth them contacting the District Council as well for hardship payments. In respect of fuel, costs of fuel, but also the matters that you've raised in your question.
Thank you.
I think there was another
Councillor
Clare.
Yes, Chairman, it's the County Councillor. I'm glad you brought the thing up about fuel poverty and about older people, because I don't know if you can do anything as a county councillor. I know that you're very go ahead and thrusting and everything like that, or I believe you are. But it's upset me, the price of the Meals on Wheels going up. Now, it doesn't probably seem a lot to people around the table that they're going up to £5.67 a day, but it's £123, well, nearly £124 a year, and on top of the fuel, water, rents, and everything else going up, it's a lot of money, and it worries me that it is always the vulnerable. It is always the elderly and the young kids, because apparently the county council chairman
are talking about putting the cost of children travelling to school and the taxi fares. I believe it was reported in the Livingston Times. They're still discussing that. Is there any way you can rally your fellow councillors to say that we don't keep wanting the elderly people to go without food? Sorry,
That's okay.
I didn't put that right.
Chairman, I'm happy to write to the county council.
Good.
If Councillor McLean at the end of this, well, if I can take up all the details and specifics, I'm happy to write at the county council asking them not to do that and sticking up to the goal. I think that's something we should all do. Remind the colony afterwards, please.
Well, if they keep pushing up, then, you know, it'd be cheap to go to Ashland.
Give me a bit of paper.
Sorry.
Thank you. I believe you've had a question already, Councillor Wilson?
Is the chairman aware?
Go on then.
Very quickly, there's a few. Is the chairman aware footbridge within Langdown Woods, there was supposed to be work on it starting this week, it has been delayed for weather-related reasons. And is the chairman aware that, as well as that, there is also the Citizens Advice Bureau, which is a good area to signpost, which they have, as they presented, and do a lot of work in partnership with the NEC that could fund more. And lastly, is the chairman aware that the Healthy Haven Garden, which has received some councillor funding, is now open behind the red and green practice for people to visit, and we have events over the summer. It's beautiful, and I've gone and met volunteers recently on the same day, but obviously it was with children. And obviously it's a good opportunity for people to have a bit of respite and just enjoy the gardens behind the doctors. That's all.
I am aware, Councillor Wade, but thank you for raising all of those excellent points. Councillor Wade.
One last one. Is the chairman aware that Hampshire County Council has apologised for not doing the road work repairs on Beverley Road, but storm, whatever it was, on Friday prevented the work to be done, and they will write to me with a new date to get it done.
Could you make sure that you copy in the officers as well?
The officers?
Yes,
You
so
don't
that
do
they
that. You do that.
are aware of
I apologise.
the information.
We'll certainly copy it to them.
Thank you very much. That concludes council questions. We move on to item 10, councillor appointments. This is to consider appointing a representative to serve Hythe and Dibden Woodland and Waterside Group, which was deferred from the last meeting. Councillor Jones, have you had a chance to think about that?
Yes, I will.
That is fantastic. And do we need to vote on this? It would be a good idea. Should we vote on that if we're happy for that to happen?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's done and dusted. Right, moving on to item 11, which is the Amenities Committee to consider the recommendations of the Amenities Commission Committee, which is to purchase a suitable sized oak tree and sundries that will be planted by the maintenance team in memory of long-serving ex-parish councillor Stan Wade. Do I have any comments from councillors? Councillor Clark.
Just, I wasn't there, so I'll just make sure that there is a nameplate associated with it on the tree, something associated.
It's all part of the package.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, thank you. That's all I need.
Councillor Fairhead.
Didn't know Stan, but know his reputation. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Fantastic. Do we have any other? Yes, Councillor.
Well, could I just make a point that the actual plaque is being provided by the family?
True.
And the tree is being provided by the parish.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
And I did wonder, actually, it says the maintenance team will plant it, whether it would be suitable to have an opportunity to actually make a little thing of it, because I mean, Stan was very outstanding and did a lot of good.
It would certainly be a good idea to have a pictorial memorial of the occasion. Absolutely.
Chairman, sorry to keep happening, but Stan was only a damn good parish councillor and district councillor. He worked damn hard for this community, and I think it should be noted that he's not getting the tree just for being on the parish council. It's what he did for the community, stand, shout, CAB, and everything like that. So it's not, so people don't get it wrong, it's not just for him being a parish councillor. He was an awful lot more.
Thank you for that. Well-made points there. Okay, so can we vote on this one? Vote on the recommendation? I beg your pardon.
Sure.
That's fine. Yeah, I was only going to say, would it be possible, you know, you're saying it's up to a photo tribute that maybe we could put an article in the Herald to, you know, publicise the events.
I'm sure that would be entirely possible. Yes, absolutely. So are we happy to go to a vote now? Can I ask those people to raise their hands if they're in favour? Thank you very much. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, that's carried then. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 12, which is the Bpnf and Climate Emergency Committee to agree the next energy supplier for council utilities, taking into account the recommendations to the Climate Emergency and Bpnf committees. Exact figures have been provided this evening. You should have them in front of you to look at the various energy prices. So I'll give councillors a chance to refresh their memories of the costs. Just as with domestic users, organisations such as ours also have a nightmare of a time looking at fluctuating prices. Sue, would you like to make any comments?
Can I just say that these are indicative rates because obviously they change every day. And so the thing you need to do really is to delegate authority to get the best rate. For next Monday, I think it is the renewal date.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, is it possible to, if we're just deciding on a particular one of suppliers, perhaps at 1, 2 or 3? Because if energy supplies go up, then others are going to go to the wall. So
what we're suggesting is that this is giving us an idea of, as the clerk said, it's an indicative a kind of breakdown. But prices are so volatile at the moment. What we're suggesting is to get the best possible deal when we have to sign, that we delegate responsibility to the clerk to make that decision based on what we've got at the moment, which could well change either way. Yeah.
So giving them a delegation, if they pass, they can go somewhere else.
Yes. Councillor Cullen.
I was only going to say, leading on to your question, I did ask the clerk, and she assured me that she's done the research and the selection there is a very stable company. As much as you can do, she's pretty sure it'll be around.
As long as they're not strong and stable.
I think the idea was to get an indication as to whether you wanted a commitment to green renewable energy or whether you were content to go to brown energy. And I think the Climate Committee, backed up by GPNF recommendation, preferred the green option. And really the current supply and the variable rate indicates that you're better off fixing at the moment because you're in a rock and a hard place really, as are all residential customers.
It may not actually be an either or because that may be the best option anyway. Yeah. Councillor Wade.
You first.
I'm going to say one of you. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Yeah. Well, Chair, I was going to say I propose that supporting the recommendations is that we give the clerk the option. Yes, our preference is for a green supplier, but if there is an astoundingly more cost-effective non-green supplier, we have a duty to the council taxpayer to look at that in the short term and hopefully go back green later. But all being well with luck, as it is on paper at the moment, the best supplier is a green supplier. So that will be me.
Thank you, Councillor Alex Wade.
Yes, when we discussed this in GPNF, obviously There's no great answer because this is at least 104% above our previous budget for reasons beyond our control. But the answer was presented to herself. We had 36 months that gave us fixed and a bit of relative long-term with a contract. I'm not comfortable with shorter term contracts on this particular subject matter. The standing charges, the day rates, and the percentage increases were all some of the best on the particular brand, and very important that it's a green energy supplier. For me, considering where else we could have gone, and some of the figures are just scary, and particularly some of those percentage increases that were presented to us, such as the British Gas variable one, are frightening for a local authority of this size. So I completely support the recommendations as I did in Bpnf.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne.
I was going to second Councillor Malcolm-Way's suggestion.
Right, so we've got a proposer and a seconder. Can I have those people who are in favour of delegating responsibilities to the clerk and officers? Thank you very much, councillors. Okay, moving on to item 13, grant application. To consider the recommendation of the Bpnf committee relating to a grant application for the Horticultural show and craft show to part fund the 2022 Horticulture show. I will not take part in the voting on this because I've been involved in the group that's setting up the show. So I will declare an interest there. I forgot about that item earlier. Apologies. So, do we have any questions from councillors? Councillor Wade.
Chairman, I'd like to propose the seeding of the Horticultural show by the £400.
Sorry, what was the joke, right?
That was serious.
Do we have any other councillor comments, questions?
I was just going to say I'll have to stand out as well as soon as you put it.
Fair enough. Okay, councillor Otherwade.
There'll be no terrible jokes from me. Just very simply, one important, and again I mentioned this in Bpnf, in this grant application, we're supporting not only an event that's very green, but also something that supports a different area of the community, such as Dibden Parish. We do a lot with Hythe in the village centre for obvious reasons, but it's nice to do something in a different area. Dibden Parish, give some acknowledgement and have some events there throughout the calendar year. So that's why I supported the grant application.
And it's been running for more than 100 years. Yeah, excellent. So, can I ask councillors to vote on the recommendation? Do we have a proposal?
I propose it,
I thought we proposed it. Let's propose it.
Well, never mind.
It got lost in your terrible joke.
No, it's a seeding.
Sorry, I just switched off. Right, shall we move on and vote on it? Right, those councillors in favour, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 14, which is 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. To receive the following motion from Councillor Malcolm Wade. Over to you, Councillor Wade.
Jim, do you need me to read it out, or are you happy to take it as well?
I can read.
Good. Can I just make one very important comment for members in notification? In this, I've got an interest. This is for information's sake. This
sorry, Councillor Wade, can I just stop you a minute?
Can I just make, under the code of conduct, you're not allowed to speak. However, there is a way around it if you wish to suspend standing orders. And
It's
allow...
just for information, it's really important.
So we'll need to suspend standing orders. So can I ask councillors in favour of suspending standing orders? That's a majority. You may continue.
And my only comment is that this is so designed to tell the county council where the funding for this work will come, because the original just declaring a 20-mile limit is just too vague, and this was designed specifically to allow the parish councils or anyone that puts it through to have to show to the council we understand where it's going to come from. It's a matter of detail.
Where is the money coming from?
Well, it's coming from the economy and transport budget.
Oh, it's coming from Hampshire.
Yeah.
Can I suggest if councillors have questions of factual nature, they ask them now?
Right.
Before you reinstate standing orders?
Absolutely. So are there any questions of a factual nature? Yes, Councillor Delaware.
What sort, is it going to be a blanket 20 around the sort of
No.
centre, or are we going to vote on specific roads or something like that?
The motion put forward by the Association of New Forest Councils is to have targeted speed restrictions. They rejected a blanket 20 mile an hour speed restriction because one size does not fit all.
And that's what it says in the agenda.
Councillor Wade.
Back to your question, very quickly, is there a limit to the amount of roads in any particular area that can be put forward? Because I imagine every council around here will probably have a road in mind that they would like to prioritise.
To my knowledge, there is no limit in set on how many of the roads will be at a 20-mile limit. But I imagine it wouldn't be every road in the area, because certain roads are not designed for 20 miles.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we reinstate standing orders? Okay, can I ask councillors to vote on reinstating standing orders?
Do we have to wait for Councillor McLean to come back?
No, you don't have to.
Because we'll still have, we may still have a majority. So councillors in favour? Thank you very much. So, we've seen the motion and we are agreeing the motion or having an amendment to it or disagreeing with it. So, can I ask councillors in support of the motion to raise their hands?
So it is as the motion stands.
That is as the motion stands.
Numbers 1, 2 and 3.
That's my understanding on block, because I've not had any questions about parts of it. We all happy with that? Fantastic, thank you. We can move on to item 15 now. So this is the annual parish assembly, to agree the date of the annual parish assembly for the 6th of April 2022. Are there any questions about this? Any comments from councillors?
Can I just make the point that an email is being sent around, I think by Deborah here, to all councillors requesting reports by a deadline for the annual parish assembly booklet.
Thank you. Yes, and just to echo that, there is a suggested word limit for items and a request for photos to support your items, because that makes it a much more digestible document for the public.
Sorry, Chairman, can I just check on that? So when we do our reports, we have to provide photographic evidence.
You secure in some way, if you can, yes. It may not be possible for everything, but it just makes it a much more lively document.
But the reports are sort of a snapshot of the year. How are we going to get pictures of 12 months worth of comments? I try to understand how that would work.
Well, you would maybe select one appropriate image just to stop it being a page full of indigestible text.
So, I'll get a photograph of the castle.
Put a drawing in or something. Councillor Clark.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask whether the meeting will be broadcast or recorded on the YouTube channel as per this? Can we make arrangements for that? It's part of the general.
Can you?
Happens insist.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Any other questions, comments? Councillor de la Mare.
Where will it be held? Is it going to be in the parish hall?
Yes.
It's here. It's here.
Oh, I thought it was parish hall.
It was in the parish hall.
Does it have a big audience?
Well, I think usually you don't get many audience at all. Actually, to be honest, sorry.
Feeling hurt now.
True, no, unfortunately.
Right. Sorry, my misunderstanding.
If you use the parish hall, you're actually displacing a regular booking at the parish hall, which is always a problem at the parish hall. And if you don't get people from the audience, the public are turning up anyway, it seems a shame
to displace the woodland.
And if we are able to have it recorded, then it will actually go out to a wider audience than has traditionally attended. So I think it swings and roundabouts on this one.
Or big screens outside.
You were non-traditionalist, Councillor Wade. Councillor Wade.
Yes, it's my close up, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, it's just to make the point that with regards to the annual parish assembly, I think having it in the Grove is absolutely the right thing to do, because especially now we've removed the Community Spirit Awards and the Environmental Awards and put it in a far more appropriate time of the calendar, the Hythe of activity, you can make that more of an event. The only people who would really come to the parish assembly would have been that part. And because I think Councillor McLean would remember, they would come to the meeting and then they would leave when we start to go through the report. And it's quite short a meeting. So I do think it's more appropriate, and I certainly would want to remove the booking from the parish hall for such an instance. So, as I say, I might be done this for a while, but I'm quite happy to move on that meeting to somewhere more appropriate.
I think as long as the information is clear and goes out, so that there's no one turning up at the hall expecting it to be there because it's always been there. And I think as long as we've done that, then that would be appropriate. So do we need to vote on the venue as well as the meeting? Right. So we'll agree the venue first of all.
We can do it one by one thing.
Can we? Okay, we'll do that then. So this is the annual parish assembly in the Grove on the 6th of April 2022. Those people in favour, raise their hands, please.
What, here?
Yeah.
Yay!
Oh.
Thank you very much. That's a clear majority, if not unanimous. Okay, item 16. Queen's Jubilee celebrations. First of all, it's to note signposting is on the Parish Council's website for any community events, and also to consider councillor suggestions for commemorative activity. Minute number 206/21 refers. So, first of all, can we note, I hope councillors have seen the signposting on the parish website. If you haven't, I would draw your attention to that. Are we happy to note that? Thank you very much. Secondly then, to consider councillor suggestions for commemorative activity.
Like a tree. She likes trees.
That is in process. So
Sorry?
the process for that is underway.
Oh, is that underway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Wade. Alex Wade.
I sort of might need to speak to officers on this. So, as I say, Councillor McLean mentions planting the tree. I know we discussed it in either amenities or Bpnf, and there was discussion about possible funds, and I know that I volunteered, and maybe other councillors did as well, that any councillors who had any of their New Forest District Council grant funds left could contribute. I think it's about both of us, £100 I think was suggested, and we could use that funding if it didn't come from the parish budget. So I do think planting a tree is a very good idea. It's not, to say, an original idea, but I think it is very important to plant a tree on behalf of Her Majesty. We obviously weren't going to, this extraordinary achievement. But it's also, I think, dare I say, a pragmatic approach, because obviously we can't go putting in something out of the ordinary, because obviously it's taxpayers' money. And I think something like a tree is very respectful of the occasion, but if you want it, if NFDC councils can contribute their grants towards it, that they still have left for this year, and indeed, because there is a raised budget for NFDC councillors related to the Queen's Jubilee for the next budget year, then obviously we can contribute if that is a preferred method.
Thank you, Councillor Malcolm.
I seem to remember in a previous, I can't remember what it was commemorating, we had a little function here for people who contributed to the community. I think it was sandwiches. We did something here, and I think chair. It must have been the last.
It was the 100 years celebration or something.
Yeah, that was old, wasn't it? Would it? Just a suggested to, and we'll discuss if district councils could have funding, be appropriate to do that again, to commemorate the Queen's Jubilee. A Queen's Jubilee is a, you know, not funny, it's a lifetime, one in a lifetime activity. It's never happened, but we've been on the throne before, and she's very important to people. And if we invite people who helped the community like we did before in the last one, I think it would be nice. It wouldn't be very wouldn't be very expensive, wouldn't be very time-consuming office to organise, and just really get some catering in. And if funding is an issue, well, you know, I as a district council will be prepared to put forward, county council, let's put some funds towards it. I'm just thinking that as a way of commemorating the Queen's Jubilee and involving prominent community. Yes, that's very good.
Sure. Don't disagree with the sentiment, excellent idea, but I think we spoke about this at Unity before. I cannot guarantee that there will be any officers available for that weekend. It's a long weekend when they will be doing.
No, I wasn't suggesting doing it then. I was suggesting doing it during the week, when people are during the day.
I missed that, I apologise.
No, I didn't actually say that. That's what I was thinking of. Because I did say we'll draw up an extra time.
There has been a fair bit of consultation about this already. With the community awards, some of those community awards can actually be tied in to organised activities. There is also a national database for a lot of these. So some of the things that we would do normally can be tied in with that occasion. But all good points. And I think one of the things that is clear is that you don't have to have a particular date that you have to do things on. So it makes absolute sense to find a date that is convenient and is appropriate to be able to do that. Councillor Clark.
Just as a suggestion, perhaps for the item on the Amenities Committee for discussion, is perhaps to think about how this council will commemorate when the Queen goes.
There is a protocol for that.
No, I mean on the day. I mean of perhaps we might want to install something, a memorial stone, tree or something at that point. I just wonder whether it's worthy of discussion in the Amenities Committee in slower time than when she finally does go.
Oh, for God's sake.
It's going to
Being the chair forgets you on that.
Noted, Councillor Clark. Thank you for those kind words. So,
I'm unclear as to what you're doing about this 16B.
well, we've considered, and I think my understanding is that it's the next Amenities Committee meeting. We will need to have an agenda item to formalise what we would hope to do as a council, and councillors can bring their thoughts and concrete suggestions to that meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have any Queen parties, Chairman.
No, this is for the Platinum Jubilee, because we're hoping that that's going to be happening.
So the next meeting is the middle of March, and that's when you want to discuss this.
That is when that is when we present what the concrete ideas that councillors have had. We all happy with that?
Yeah.
Right. In that case, we need just something to know that, don't we?
Because we haven't decided.
It's not a decision, so we've just noted that. Councillors happy to have noted 16B. Lovely. Moving on to item 17, Finance 2021-2022. Councillors to note receiving an update on the financial effect of COVID-19 for the period 1st of January to the 31st of January 2022. Mercy, councillors have noted that. Thank you very much. And noted receipt of the bank reconciliation report for January 2022. That's been duly noted. and we need to vote on to approve the accounts for payment for January 2022. Can I have a proposer, please?
I have a question, Chairman.
Ask away.
With regard to payment, here we go. It's on the 14th of January, paid to Prelude Limited with regards to. It's with regards to forest front vandalism.
Oh, right.
And obviously the repair work there for quite a substantial amount. Was that the amount that was covered by our insurance and therefore not technically in addition out of our budgets, and we were able to recoup that?
That's correct, that's minus the excess.
Okay, and how much was the excess?
I believe it's £100, don't quote me on
I won't quote you on it, but thank you, I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions before we vote on that? No? Okay, so councillors, if you approve the accounts, will you please signify that by raising your hand? Thank you very much. And that was unanimous. Right, so we move to, thank you very much. We move to item 18, which is the exclusion of presence.
Just stop the recording. The recording.
Yeah.